You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to start with the Olympics. I have had a lot of people ask me, Jacob, why haven't you talked about the Olympics? Jacob, you got to talk about the Olympics. Jacob, the Olympics are winding down, you got to talk about it. Here's why I didn't talk about the Olympics. I just couldn't get into it. And I know for a fact that a lot of people felt the same way as me. I mean, there were a lot of issues with talking about the Olympics, but the worst thing that I could do would be to talk about an event that I don't care about. It's why I don't talk about any of the golf majors, any of the tennis majors, any soccer stuff. I don't care. I don't want to insult your intelligence by giving you subpar commentary. Part of the reason that I couldn't get into it was because it did have an amateurish feel to it. No fans, no pandemonium, no screaming people. That is a big appeal of the Olympics. You have these people coming from all over the globe to support their country. I'm not talking about the athletes. I'm talking about fans that will converge on this one city to support their country. That's one of the biggest aspects of the games that we didn't have that this year. I'm not blaming the IOC. Japan is having a big COVID outbreak. They've done a bad job with it. Because of that, there were no fans. That's not on the IOC. Actually, the IOC should be commended for completing this Olympiad. A lot of people didn't think it was possible. A lot of people didn't want the games to happen. They happened. And you know what? We got through them. But the amateurish feel resulted in me not getting into it. Also, the fact that it was on tape delay made me not get into it. Do you have any idea how hard it is to watch a sporting event knowing what's going to happen? Oh yeah, I'll record this event, and then I'll go on Twitter and find out what happened. Not on purpose, just accidentally scrolling through my timeline. Hey, look. This is what happened. How do you get into that? You've got NBC showing these marquee events on tape delay. You have to go out of your way to not find out what happened. The freaking tape delay is a joke. There's got to be something that can be done about that. I don't know what, but something needs to be done. I mean, we're going to get it next year when the games are in Beijing. In 2024, when the games are in Paris. We're going to get the same thing. When the games are in Italy, same freaking thing. How can you get into an Olympics when half of the events, probably more, air on tape delay? I don't know what the solution is. Maybe there isn't one, but someone needs to figure something out. You've got to go out of your way to find the events that you want to watch. Some of the events were online only, which I don't like. It's a giant pain in the rear end to set that up so I can watch it on my TV. Some of the events that I want to watch aren't even televised. I wanted to watch the Israeli baseball team. Couldn't find them. I don't know what the solution is. I know that it's extremely hard to televise an Olympics. You've got to give NBC credit for getting the people that they needed into Tokyo. But something's got to be done. And these events that aren't sports, or that no one cares about, I shouldn't say they're not sports. Skateboarding is a sport, but who the hell cares? Trampoline, that's not a sport. Come on. I had a trampoline in my TV room when I was younger. I can promise you, I wasn't training for the Olympics. Who cares about judo? Put on events that people actually want to watch. I mean, the thing with that is, a lot of people wanted to watch basketball. A lot of people wanted to watch baseball. These are the sports that people are familiar with. Soccer, gymnastics, swimming, track and field. These are the events that people know. Did we get the A squad? No, not even close. Maybe for soccer we did. Maybe for track and field we did. Although I don't know, Carl Lewis killed the relay team. Maybe for swimming we did. We didn't get it for baseball. We didn't get it for basketball. You can't tell me that that team that the U.S. put out there was the best team that they could have put out there. And they still won gold. Gotta love it. And gymnastics, too. All due respect to Simone Biles, okay? I know that she was dealing with some big mental health issues, and I'm not trying to minimize what happened to her. But you were the most marketed athlete in these games, at least in this country. Thousands, if not millions of people wanted to watch you perform your sport. Instead, you sit out events? I'm sorry, that's a bad look for you. And then she comes back and gets bronze? I can't even say win bronze. There's a saying that my mother has with the Olympics. You win gold, you lose gold, and you get bronze. That's how the three medals work. And you know what? She's right. People are saying that Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast in American history, if not the history of the sport. Not even close. You've got to do more than dominate one Olympics to have that honor. I don't know who the greatest American gymnast is, but it's not Simone Biles. Again, I understand that she had some big mental health issues. I get that that comes first and foremost, but you have all the time after the Olympics to deal with it. Think about it this way. The Yankees are in the playoffs. They're all set for the AL wildcard game, and Aaron Judge says, hey, I have some mental health issues. I need to step away from the team. Are you kidding? You can't wait a month? In this past Super Bowl, Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. What do you think the reaction would have been if Brady had said, hey, I have some mental health issues. I need to step away? Or Mahomes said the same thing. The Olympics needs to be the showcasing of the best athletes in the world. We did not get that this year. We had Novak Djokovic withdrawing in tennis. We had a bunch of ham and eggers representing this country in baseball. I mean, it's the right thing. They shouldn't pause the MLB season. It seems like they're going to pause the NHL season. I hate when they do that. Bettman needs to put his foot down and say, we're not stopping the season. He's done that in the past. Now he is going back to his old ways. I don't like that. Too many injuries. It's hard to get back into the sport after a long pause. We learned that from the coronavirus. I don't know if it's too late to change it, but it should be changed. So look, congratulations to everyone who won a medal. And if you come from a small country, I understand that it's an honor just to compete. Everyone should be commended for getting these games done. It looked touch and go there before the games got underway. Then, it went off, I don't want to say without a hitch, but we got it done. I mean, I did watch a little bit of it. I do like it. But another issue that the Olympics has is that it's on all the blasted time. Like if it's 4 o'clock on a Saturday, there's something on. 2 o'clock on a Sunday, there's something on. It's hard to get into that at 100% when it's on constantly. When the NHL did that, when the bubble first got underway, it was hard to get into all those games. It was hard to keep tabs on everything. The Olympics has that same issue. There's nothing that can be done. I understand that some of the issues that I have with the Olympics are unsolvable, but they are real issues. Speaking of the Olympics, one of its gold medalists made some big NBA news. Kevin Durant signed a 4-year extension with the Nets worth the maximum salary. Basically, what happened was he had a player option on his contract for 22-23. The Nets ripped that up and gave him a 4-year extension starting in 22-23. One thing that's sort of kind of noteworthy is that Durant isn't making too much more money in 22-23 than he would have if he had just exercised his player option. He's making just $200,000 more, which in the grand scheme of things is really nothing. But still, he's making more money. He's getting $198 million over the next 4 years. That's $49.5 million per year. Kevin Durant, in the final year of this contract, will make over $54 million. There are some MLB teams that will have entire payrolls less than $54 million. It is an absolutely insane contract. It's a ton of money. There's no question about that. And look, this keeps Durant tied to the Nets through his age 37 season. But if a torn Achilles couldn't stop Kevin Durant. What makes you think Father Time will be able to stop Durant? I mean, just to be clear, LeBron James is 36. He put up 25 points per game last year for the Lakers. He was still fantastic. If LeBron James can still be fantastic at 36, Kevin Durant can still be fantastic at that age. I mean, one thing that you've got to realize is that Durant didn't play at all in 1920. So the wear and tear that would be on his body normally is lessened by a year. Did Durant have injury issues last year? No question. The guy only played in 35 games. But as the contract elapses, you'll still see Durant play at a high level. A, he's Kevin Durant, arguably the best player in the world. And B, if you're saying, oh, he's 37, he's going to fall off a cliff, you got to take that down a year. One thing that the Nets tried really hard to do last year was to give their stars a ton of rest. They didn't rush Durant back from his injury. They didn't rush Harden back from his injury. They let Kyrie take games off. This is that theory taken to the extreme. And you don't need me to tell you that Durant didn't miss a beat. The guy put up 27 points per game. He shot 53.7% from the field, 45% from beyond the arc. He was agonizingly close towards leading the Nets past the Bucks in the Eastern Conference semifinals. It's not his fault that the Nets lost that series. I'm not blaming Durant by any stretch. James Harden got hurt. Kyrie Irving got hurt. Joe Harris no-showed. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Durant proved all the doubters wrong. It's just that simple. People were skeptical about if he'd be able to return from the torn Achilles, a devastating injury for most mere mortals. Kevin Durant is not most mere mortals. Kevin Durant was put on this earth to do one thing: dominate at basketball. And nothing, absolutely nothing, will stop him. Not a torn Achilles, not Father Time, nothing. I've brought up the nightmare scenario for the Nets before. My nightmare scenario was that the Nets are eliminated early in the playoffs again, and everyone leaves in free agency. That's not going to happen now. You have Kevin Durant. So you're basically guaranteed to, if not make the playoffs, always be in the hunt. And you've got to think that a James Harden extension is around the corner. You've got to think that a Kyrie Irving extension is around the corner. I find it kind of hard to believe that Durant would put pen to paper if he wasn't sure that he'd have those two guys around for the next 5 years. Truthfully, I was kind of surprised that Harden and Kyrie didn't sign extensions over the weekend, but I guess it doesn't matter when they sign extensions, it just matters if they sign extensions. Harden, I desperately want back. Second best player on the team. makes his teammates better, willing passer, changed his game to benefit the team. I love Harden. Kyrie, when his head is on straight, is incredibly dominant. Obviously, I want him back. Obviously, I want him to sign a max extension. If he didn't, I don't want to say it would be the end of the world, but it would be tough. Because Kyrie Irving, again, when his head is on straight, is one of the 15 or 20 best players in the NBA. So look, I was thrilled when I heard about this extension for Durant. Is it a lot of money? The answer is yes, but if Joe Tsai is willing to pay it, you gotta do it. I mean, if any player in the NBA is worth this contract, it's Kevin Durant. That Nets-Lakers finals that we're gonna get next year is gonna be really fun. Nets in 7. Moving on now to the Clippers signing Justice Winslow to a 2-year deal worth $8 million. And this is a good move for the Clippers. I always liked Winslow. I always felt like the Heat misused him. They played him in a bunch of different positions. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. They never let him focus on one thing. And because of that, he never reached the potential that you knew he could have hit coming out of Duke. This guy was the 10th overall pick in 2015. People were going insane over this pick for the Heat. Here's a guy who was a consensus top 5 talent. He slips to 10. People raved about that pick. I mean, Winslow has always been solid. The thing is, though, he's also had a ton of injury concerns. In the last 2 years, he's only played 41 games. He'll never be that guy that you thought he could have been coming out of Duke. But when healthy, he's a good player. I do like Winslow, and I feel like there's still some potential there. Like, let me ask you something. Would it surprise you if Winslow put up 15 points per game in a season at some point in time in his career? It wouldn't knock my socks off. Is he going to do it this year? Probably not. But I think Winslow will put together a good year for the Clippers. And I see no reason why he wouldn't be good the year after. He's young. He's 25. Really good job by the Clippers. I like this move a lot. Alright, I just gave you some NBA Valk talk. Let's get to the NFL Valk talk. Specifically, the Mammoth Darius Leonard extension. He signed a 5-year extension worth $98.5 million. That is just under $20 million per year. In terms of total value and AAV, this is the richest contract ever for a linebacker. Before this, Fred Warner had that distinction. What's important to note about the Leonard extension is that it's not drastically more than the Warner extension. Warner got $95 million for 5 years. Leonard got $98.5 million for 5 years. That's a $3.5 million difference. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a ton of money. I mean, this is a great move for the Colts. Darius Leonard is one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He's never had a Pro Football Focus grade under 72. Last year was his worst grade ever, 72.6. I would have put him a lot higher than that. Leonard does, everything you want a linebacker to do. If you wanted to make the argument that Darius Leonard was the best linebacker in the NFL, I'd listen to you. In fact, I'd probably tend to agree with you. You've got to give the Colts credit for locking up two key young pieces. They locked up Braden Smith not that long ago. Now they're locking up Darius Leonard. Great job by the Colts. Will they be good this year? Probably not. I mean, Carson Wentz is gonna miss a chunk of the season. It seems like Jacob Eason is gonna get the start week 1. And if you'll remember, in not this past NFL draft, the draft before, I loved Jacob Eason. I had him as the 4th best quarterback in that draft, ahead of Jordan Love. I think Eason could do a good job for the Colts. He has a ton of help, there's no question. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Colts. Moving on now to a very concerning report involving my beloved Jets. According to Rich Cimini of ESPN, the best Jets beat writer there is, Denzel Mims' future with the Jets is in question. According to Cimini, he's 6th or 7th on the wide receiver depth chart. That's not a good look for a second rounder. So Cimini's bringing up the question, are the Jets gonna give him some time to develop? Are they gonna cut him? Or are they gonna trade him? If the New York Jets cut Denzel Mims, will we start criticizing Joe Douglas, please? What more would the guy need to do to earn your criticism? A second rounder? Not playing a meaningful role for the team in his second year on the team? Doesn't this remind you of anyone? Stephen Hill, Devin Smith. I'll even throw in Jace Amaro, the tight end. Those names ringing any bells to ya? This is why I didn't want the Jets to go crazy at wide receiver. I understood adding Corey Davis. I loved that move. That made a ton of sense. The Jets needed a true number 1 wide receiver. Davis is that. Maybe he's at the lower end of true number 1s, but he's there. Keelan Cole, okay. As a 4th wide receiver, I don't mind it. Elijah Moore, wow, you have crazy depth. Hello, other positions of need. Hello, cornerbacks. You have Denzel Mims, why are you drafting Elijah Moore? There are only so many mouths that you can feed at once. Also, I'll say this. Braxton Berrios has talent. He could be a solid 5th wide receiver. Because the Jets made all these other moves at wide receiver, drafting Moore, signing Cole, restructuring Crowder, Denzel Mims is getting squeezed out of a roster spot. And I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Here's a guy who just last year, Jets fans were clamoring for. They were screaming for this guy. After the Jets traded down, everyone was screaming for the Jets to take Mims. Douglas did it, and you know what? Mims had a good season. 23 catches for 357 yards. That's 15.5 yards per catch. Yes, he was hurt, but you can make the argument that Denzel Mims was one of the Jets' best players on offense last year. Look, I understand that that's not a high bar to clear. We all know how bad the Jets' offense was. You don't need me to go through it. But you just took this guy in the second round. Now there's a chance that he's barely going to play for you? This isn't how you build winning rosters. This is what's gotten the Jets in this mess. Bad draft classes, moving on from guys really, really quickly. I'm not saying that it's the wrong decision to move on from some of the guys that the Jets have moved on from, but you can't buy a Super Bowl. Build through the draft. I thought Joe Douglas had a reputation as being a great drafter. I mean, not for nothing, but there was a time, not that long ago, that we were looking at Denzel Mims as one of the key building blocks for the Jets' future. Now he's been usurped by Elijah Moore? It's nothing against Moore. I like Moore. Okay, the guy has dominated at training camp. But that's training camp. I understand that he was a first-round talent. And the Jets got him in the second round. And everyone was going nuts over that pick in the war room. I'm not saying I don't like Moore. I like Moore. I think he's going to be a really good player. But you can't tell me that the Jets needed another wide receiver more than a corner. And also, this speaks to Joe Douglas's, for lack of a better word, ineptitude. I'm okay with using that word. When Moore was taken, I wasn't crazy about it because I wanted a corner, but okay. The Jets got a really good player. How are they going to use him? Well, he's going to be a future slot receiver, right? Corey Davis and Denzel Mims on the outside. Moore in the slot. Keelan Cole as wide receiver 4. Braxton Berrios as wide receiver 5. If you're going to carry 6 wide receivers, Vincent Smith is there. And the Jets are just going to move on from Jamison Crowder. Okay, I'm fine with that. I can get behind this. It's not what I would have done, but okay. Then Douglas, for some stupid reason, restructures Jamison Crowder's contract. Nothing against Crowder, but the Jets could have moved on from him and given their young guns a little more of a chance. I mean, because Moore has looked so good in camp, and because the Jets restructured Crowder, the Jets need to find reps for both of them. For some reason, that's coming at the expense of Denzel Mims. I don't know why it wouldn't come at the expense of a guy like Cole or Berrios or Smith, but it's coming at the expense of Denzel Mims, a really good player. Every team in the NFL should be calling about Mims. I'm not saying he's going to be the second coming of Don Maynard, but I am saying that he's going to become a really good player. Let's put it this way. I've seen nothing that indicates that he's going to be a bust. Also, think about this. Let's look at Joe Douglas's draft class in not this past draft, the draft before. He made 9 picks. Mekhi Becton is going to be a stud, okay? No argument there. The guy has the potential to be one of the best left tackles in the NFL, home run pick. Denzel Mims is on the roster bubble. Ashton Davis had a bad rookie season. Same thing with Jabari Zuniga. La'Mical Perine's on the roster bubble. Cameron Clark didn't play at all last year. Same thing with James Morgan. Bryce Hall was solid last year. And the same thing with Braden Mann. So you hit a home run with one pick. Let's say a single on two picks, Hall and Mann. As of this very moment, if you struck out on the 6 other picks, that's a bad look for you. You can't hit on just 3 of your 9 picks. Especially if you're going to build this team through the draft. And you're not going to be as aggressive in free agency as I would have liked. That's not going to work. I understand that a lot can change between now and cut day. Maybe some injuries happen. Maybe Mims dominates in the preseason. And we all forget about this. But the fact that this is even being bandied about is sickening to me. Like I said, if the Jets cut Mims or trade him, I don't want to hear any more Joe Douglas praise. You can praise Salah, you can praise Wilson, you can't praise Douglas. That doesn't work. Here's another young gun that could be on the roster bubble. According to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN.com, multiple team executives believe that CJ Henderson can be traded for. You remember how much I loved CJ Henderson coming out of Florida. I wanted the Jets to take him at 11. I had a feeling the Jaguars would take him at 9, but if the Jets took him at 11, I would have been doing backflips. Henderson didn't have a great rookie season, only played in 8 games, had a 57.9 overall grade, according to Pro Football Focus. But that's not terrible for a young corner. I mean, Henderson has a ton of potential. He's just 22 years old. I understand that Dave Caldwell isn't calling the shots anymore. Urban Meyer didn't bring Henderson in. He may want to bring in someone else. But it would be really stupid to move on from Henderson. If I'm Joe Douglas, I'm on the phone with the Jaguars right now, asking for Henderson. I have no problem taking a chance on him. I'd hesitate to give up anything more than like a 4th round pick. Maybe a conditional 3rd. I don't know if the Jaguars would go for that. But if you were to tell me last year that the Jets could have CJ Henderson and Mekhi Becton, I would have called you an idiot. Think about it this way. The Jets are using a 4th round pick or a conditional 3rd on CJ Henderson. Joe Douglas better be willing to do that. I'll say this right now. If Henderson is moved on from and he's not a Jet, I'm going to scream bloody murder. Henderson doesn't fix the Jets' cornerback issues, but it would look a lot better with him in the fold. There's no question about that. Moving on now to an interesting story out of Pittsburgh. according to Adam Schefter of ESPN, James Washington has asked for a trade. The thing is, though, 2 days after that report came out, Mike Tomlin poured cold water on it. The thing is, though, if Schefter reports something, it's worth talking about. I like James Washington a lot. I feel like he's gotten better every year he's been in the NFL. I think if given the chance, he can be a really good wide receiver. The thing is, though, the Steelers' wide receiver depth chart is cluttered. They have Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. Where's Washington getting his reps? There are only so many mouths that you can feed. If Washington is upset, he has every right to be. Last year he had 30 catches for 392 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's not great, but that's not terrible. He's incredibly durable. He's young. He's only 25. If you're a team that needs a wide receiver, you've got some good options out there in Mims and Washington. Having said that, though, I don't think the Steelers are going to move on from him. Once you get past Washington, the wide receiver depth chart in Pittsburgh is really bad. So if something happens to Smith-Schuster, Claypool, or Johnson, they'll want Washington available to him. There was a really sad death in the sports world yesterday. And we knew it was coming, but that doesn't make it any easier. That, of course, is the death of Bobby Bowden. He died of pancreatic cancer yesterday at the age of 91. Bobby Bowden is, without question, one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. What he did for WVU and FSU can't be overstated. In Bowden's 6 years with the Mountaineers, they only had one losing season. His best year in Morgantown was 1975, when the Mountaineers beat the NC State Wolfpack 13-10 in the Peach Bowl. The year after that, Bowden went to FSU. Before Bowden got there, FSU was terrible. In the 3 seasons prior to Bowden's arrival, they had won just 4 games. It doesn't get much worse than that. Bowden quickly whipped the Seminoles into shape to the point that his only losing season in Tallahassee was his first year there. They went 5-6. In 1977, Bowden's second year at FSU, the Seminoles went 10-2 and annihilated Texas Tech 40-17 in the Tangerine Bowl. After that, Bowden had opportunities to leave FSU. He could have gone to Alabama. He could have gone to Auburn. He could have gone to LSU. He He could have even gone to the NFL. I didn't know this. Thank you, Wikipedia. The Atlanta Falcons made him an offer. But Bowden stayed at FSU and helped turn that program into one of the best college football schools in the nation. Now I'm going to bounce around a little bit. And I'm going to tell you about something that Bowden did that I don't know if it's ever been duplicated in the history of college football. From 1982 to 1995, the Seminoles were in a bowl game every year. That's not the impressive thing. What's impressive is that they didn't lose a single one. The closest they came was a tie in the Citrus Bowl in the 84 season against Georgia. Other than that, they won every bowl game. To go 14 straight seasons without losing a bowl game is nothing short of incredible. That streak overlapped with another streak from 1987 to 2000. The Seminoles finished with at least 10 wins every year. You think about the great players that were on those teams. Derek Brooks, Marvin Jones, Deion Sanders, Andre Wadsworth, and Charlie Ward. What Bowden did for those kids can't be overstated. Now you may be thinking to yourself, Jacob, what did Bowden do in national championships? I'm glad you asked. At the end of the 93 season, the Seminoles went up against Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. It's Bobby Bowden versus Tom Osborne. The top two schools in the nation, according to the AP, going at it. In an incredible game, the Seminoles beat the Cornhuskers 18-16. They were the consensus national champions. In 96, the Seminoles went undefeated all throughout the regular season. They went up against their in-state rivals, the Florida Gators, in the Sugar Bowl. Florida ended up destroying FSU 52-20. Then from 98 to 2000, the Seminoles played in 3 straight national title games. These were the first 3 BCS national titles. In the Fiesta Bowl at the end of the 98 season, the Seminoles narrowly lost to the Tennessee Volunteers 23-16. Although what's important to note there is that Chris Winkie was hurt. All due respect to Marcus Outzen, but he wasn't anywhere near the caliber of quarterback that Winkie was. The year after that, the Seminoles destroyed Virginia Tech 46-29 in the Sugar Bowl. In that game, FSU scored 18 unanswered fourth quarter points. The year after that, FSU went up against Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. Oklahoma won 13-2. Very, very boring game. Unfortunately for Bowden, that was kind of the end of FSU's greatness. They went 10-3 in 2003. They ended up losing the Orange Bowl to the U, 16-14. But their days of greatness were behind them. They were still good. They were appearing in bowl games. They were ranked in AP polls. They just weren't playing in any national title games. So because of that, after the 2009 season, Bowden was kind of forced out of FSU. I remember being sickened by that as a 12-year-old. FSU was still good. You gotta realize something. In Bowden's last 4 years, FSU was 3-1 in bowl games. They weren't great anymore. But they were still putting up good seasons. You're gonna force a legend out like that? I was sickened by that. Jimbo Fisher took over after being Bowden's offensive coordinator for Bowden's last 3 seasons at FSU. And look, in all fairness to FSU, the decision worked. I mean, we know what Fisher did at FSU. He was absolutely fantastic there. I just didn't like how they forced Bowden out. Bowden was an excellent coach in conference games. From 1992 to 2000, FSU's first 9 years in the ACC, the Seminoles only lost 2 conference games. Bowden was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2006. He won 12 ACC titles. Like I said, is one of the best coaches in college football history. May he rest in peace. New York Yankees show comes your way tonight. I told you that I was going to interview Brian Martin about his book on Barney Dreyfuss. That interview will be rescheduled to a later date. Something personal came up in his life, so he had to reschedule. That's perfectly fine. On Thursday, you're going to get an interview that I'm going to do with Kent Babb, the author of Across the River, Life, Death, and Football in an American City. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that unfortunately, Stan Smith is now right. Marky Post is dead.